Right, I'm
Ready?
recording. Ah,
Mm.
warming up, mate.
Yeah, no, I got that. Ready to clap?
Yes, I am.
1, 2, 3.
Now I know what you're asking. I know what you're wondering.
Mm.
Am I a psychopath? That's probably what you're thinking, isn't it? That's probably what you're
It
wondering.
is now.
Yeah, am I a psychopath? Why don't we start by just rolling back a little bit and maybe expanding on that term a little bit? If I were to ask you,
please do.
Yeah. What is it? What is a psychopath? What is psychopathy? What is a psychopath?
You're asking me this question?
Yeah.
That's a very good question, because I constantly am wondering, like, I think I Google several times a year difference between psychopath and sociopath. And I'm not entirely sure, although I think I kind of get what a sociopath is. I don't know. I think of a psychopath as someone who I don't, gosh, now that I'm trying to think about it, I'm like, what? Like an amoral person who...
Very interesting, isn't it? It's a term that gets flung around. And would it interest you perhaps to know that it isn't an in-use medical diagnosis, a psychiatric
I do think
diagnosis?
I knew that as well, which maybe is part of why I'm like, I don't know, what is that?
There's that kind of directory, isn't there, of mental health diagnoses, which is used by clinicians, used by doctors, and psychopath doesn't show up in that. So, nobody is going to diagnose you. Well, Mr. Lewis, you're a psychopath. Nobody is going to diagnose you as a psychopath because it isn't it's
not in the DSM-5 or... That's
the one, the DSM-5. I would love, by the way, to get my hands on a copy of the DSM-5. I know it's readily available.
Yeah, it can't be that hard. I think I had one when I was in like my psychology class in college. Well, it was the 4 at that point, but yeah.
Apologies for that. And you have to be a clinician to use it, don't you? You have to be a clinician to use the DSM-5, but you won't find psychopath in there. I mean, generally, it's a term used, for those with antisocial behavior traits, narcissism maybe mixed in there, impulsive behavior, risk-taking behavior, disregard for the emotional state of others.
Right, so sort of like a combination of personality disorders lumped into one.
Lack of guilt, lack of empathy, all of those are among the traits that a quote-unquote psychopath might display. Some of the most famous, of course, our boy Ted. The Zodiac. I was actually interestingly just today watching a program about did the case of Beverly Allitt ever make it across the States?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the name.
Beverly was, and I mean, she's alive. She's in custody as we speak. But Beverly Allitt was a nurse in the UK in the late 80s. I want to say 89 or 90, and on her watch, 4 kids got murdered, and she poisoned.
I hate these nurse and doctor ones.
I do. But yes, there are plenty of people who conform to lots of those different traits. Here's an interesting one for you, right? I don't know if you know this, but a while back there was a doctor by the name of... Cut out this pause if you don't mind.
I will do that, yes.
A doctor by the name of Samuel Laysted, right?
Okay.
Who recruited a load of his friends in the brain doctor industry, and together they watched 400 movies, right? From 1915 all the way through to 2010, and highlighted within all of those movies that they watched a series of fictional psychopathic characters, right?
Okay.
They ended up highlighting 126 fictional psychopathic characters, and then they analyzed all of those psychopathic characters to come up with the ones which displayed the best and most convincing on-screen depiction of psychopathic or sociopathic personality disorder.
Ooh, so who do we get?
Would you like to guess perhaps who the best and most accurate and most faithfully depicted sociopathic or psychopathic character in cinema was. It's quite recent. It's quite a recent movie.
Recent one. Most a recent. Give me like how recent are we talking?
In the 2000s, post 2000.
Ooh, is it out of horror?
Nope. In fact, many of the depictions of quote unquote psychopaths in horror are wildly inaccurate and bogus.
I would imagine.
Tell you what I'll do, right? Tell you what I'll do. I'll let you think on it, and I will tell you at the end of the episode.
Are you really going to remember to do that?
Are you going to remind me?
No. What would make you think that I would remember that?
All right, I'll tell you what, I will remember. Okay. Because as interesting as it is to talk about psychopaths, I mean, you're probably also wondering, are you a psychopath yourself? You're probably wondering that, aren't you? I mean, I've wondered this a lot.
About me?
Yes. No, about myself and about the people who walk past it.
Is CoRri a psychopath? I think she might be.
In the street.
A pretty empathetic person, so I feel pretty confident, but I don't know. Maybe you're about to tell me that I'm not. Well,
I'll tell you, far more than that book of diagnoses that we spoke about earlier on.
Sure.
There's also the internet, which is really good at helping you diagnose problems in your health, be it mental or physical. The internet will always help.
Yeah, the internet delivers.
Every time. When has the internet ever not delivered? Never. And going back years and years and years, right? Like early days on the internet. 1997 for me was my first year on the internet, and not too long after that. Famously as enshrined in the screen name that I still use to this day. There's a I love it because this question still does the rounds today on the internet, right? You still see it from time to time. There's a question, right? It's almost like a riddle that some psychiatry or psychology professor or whatever supposedly wrote years ago. And do you know what, CoRri? Depending on your answer to this question, depending on how you respond, it can indicate whether or not you have the potential for sociopathic or psychopathic thought.
Just one question?
One single question. Ooh. One single question.
Okay.
And there's one particular answer to this question that if you ask someone this question and they give you this one particular answer, they might be a psychopath.
Okay.
Now here's the question,
curious.
Right?
Okay, hit me.
This is how we're going to proceed. Do you want to know, CoRri? Because it could change everything for you.
And see, this is the thing, is I'm feeling very confident, but now like one question is a lot of pressure.
Okay, if you want to see, then I'll ask you the question, but please don't blame me for how your life may change after this moment, right?
I will blame you in a court of law should it come to it. I was fine, guys, until he asked me this one question, and then I had no choice but to go on a murder spree.
It goes without saying
it's in my nature.
That this question is bullshit, right? It goes without saying that this question has absolutely no clinical value at all, none. But yet it's fun to think about. Right, here we go. Okay. Everything you need to know is in what I'm going to describe. There are no trick questions. There are no swerves. Everything you need to know is contained within the body of the question, which I'm about. Not at all. Not at all. Just think. Just be as instinctive as you can in your response. Okay. Yeah. All right. Here we go. So, imagine for me, if you will, a lady. Okay. Not entirely unlike yourself, CoRri.
Sure.
All right. Now, tragically, this lady is bereaved and loses her mother, right? Her mother dies. Okay. And this lady is at her mother's funeral. And it's a very dark time for her, obviously. She's grieving. And at the funeral, she meets someone, okay? Mm-hmm. In fact, she meets a guy. It's somebody she's not met before. And in her grief, and over the course of the day, these two strike up a conversation, which leads to a rapport, which leads to a sense in this lady that she's met someone very, very special, They share a lot during that day. They become close during that day. They get to know one another that day. And he helps her, guides her through the day almost in her grief, okay?
Sure.
The day ends, the wake ends, the funeral ends, the guy leaves. And then 2 weeks later, this self-same lady murders her own sister.
Okay. Well,
why do you think she murders her sister? Now stop there. I'm not gonna, and those of you playing along at home, right? I'm not gonna, I don't want you to reveal the answer now either. Again, we're gonna circle back to this at the end of the episode, right?
The end of the open or the end of the whole episode?
Think on, if you're listening right now out there at work, in the car, whatever, I'd like you to just think to yourself, why would she have killed her sister? But at the end of the episode, what I will do is I will tell you that one answer. I will get your response firstly, and we'll see.
All right, so let me just make sure I have this right.
Yes.
Woman's mom dies.
Yep.
She has a funeral.
Uh-huh.
Random dude shows up.
Uh-huh.
Ends up, they hit it off. And he is very helpful in her navigating her grief.
Yes.
They go their separate ways. 2 weeks later, she kills her sister.
Exactly that.
Okay.
Well, that's all I got to say about that for now.
I guess we'll come back to this at the end of the
episode.
Will. 1 hour later.
Because speaking of waiting, who do you think is cinema's most authentic psychopath? Which character would you say is cinema's most authentic psychopath?
Right. Okay, so you said it's within the past few years.
Yeah, it was in 2008. I'm gonna give you more clues. I'm gonna narrow it down.
Okay. I had a guess, but now you're...
It was it won awards.
Is it the Joker?
It is not the Joker.
Okay. Won awards, 2008.
Yep. I'm just going to tell you, cinema's most convincing psychopath is Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Oh.
Congratulations if you got that right. Congratulations.
That's a good one. If I had thought more about that, I probably could have figured that out. That scared the shit out of me. Yeah, that's a scary ass dude.
Moment of truth.
Okay, why
now the moment of truth. Why, CoRri?
Why did she kill her sister?
Kill her sister.
I genuinely cannot think of a reason. I've gotten what not related to the story.
Okay. I'm glad. I'm glad you can't think, because if without missing a beat you'd said to me, oh well, obviously she was hoping the guy would turn up to her sister's funeral too.
That's fucked, dude.
Yes, that's if you'd said that, we're done. In fact, if you'd said that, you would be a guest on next week's episode, not a co-host.
Yikes. That's okay, but how did they come up with this question?
I don't know who originated the question. All I know is that it's internet fucking junk psychology.
Yeah,
but
totally.
It's a fun talking point.
That's good. I like it. Thank you for that, Mark.
Good.
And I feel very comfortable that I'm not a psychopath.
Good. As do I.
I'm just not a very creative one.
Yeah. A lazy psychopath, the worst kind.